we understand what is realizable value. A realizable value is the value that you receive from the sale of an asset minus the expenses that you incur on the realization of those assets, and that is your realizable value. Now, what is value in use? And remember friends, value in use is also very simple. We all are familiar with something which is known as intrinsic value. Intrinsic value. So value in use is nothing but it is the intrinsic value. So value in use is nothing but the intrinsic value. That means what? That means how do we find the intrinsic value? We find the intrinsic value by discounting cash flow arising from an asset by your cost of capital, and that is what is your intrinsic value. And that same value is value in use. That means what? That means you have an asset which is capable of generating cash independently. You have an asset which has a capability of generating cash flow independently. Now what do you do? How do you find out value in use of this asset? So you will find out value in use of this asset. Number one, projecting the cash flow that this asset will generate over its useful life. Over its useful life. And now what you do? Now you discount all these cash flows by your cost of capital. And what you get the present value of all the cash flows for the life of the asset. Make the total of all the cash, all the present values together, and that figure is your value in use. And so we know what is value in use. We understand what is realizable value. इन दोनों में से जो फिगर ज़्यादा है, अगर कैरिंग अमाउंट उस फिगर से कम हो गई है तो इसका मतलब देयर इज अ इम्पेयरमेंट. सो लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल, if the carrying amount of an asset is 100 करोड़, यानी कि बैलेंस शीट में वो एसेट 100 करोड़ पर दिख रही है, और उसकी जो रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू है, रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू यानी कि उस एसेट को सेल करके और सेल करने में जो खर्चे हैं उनको माइनस करके जो आपके हाथ में बचता है, दैट इज योर रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू. लेट्स से दैट रियलाइजेबल वैल्यू इज 80 करोड़. Now what you have? Now you have value in use. Value in use. And what is value in use? As I just explained, value in use is nothing but the intrinsic value of that independently cash generating asset. Independently cash generating asset. So agar if the value in use, and that is intrinsic value of that asset, comes to 70 crore, then is there a case of impairment? And if there is a case of impairment, then what is the amount of impairment? And the answer of course is very simple. Here if you compare the realizable value with the value in use, we realize higher of the realizable value and the value in use is 80, and carrying amount that we are showing currently is 100. So carrying amount is more than higher of value in use and realizable value, and therefore there is definitely a case of impairment. The only question is how much is the amount of impairment? The amount of impairment is 100 minus 80, and that is 20 crore. So this company will have to book a loss on account of impairment of asset or impairment loss, and that is 20 crore.